First, the battlefield was quiet. Then the radar screens lit up. 810 drones cutting through the morning air. Operators shouted, commanders scrambled, and Ukrainian defenders braced for the assault. Each second felt like the walls were closing in, until one unexpected twist changed everything. In the midst of panic, a specialist noticed a silent frequency coming alive on Russian air defense networks, threatening to undo Ukraine's drone counterstrike. Everyone thought the battle was lost in that instant, but what happened next turned chaos into opportunity and flipped the course of an entire warfront. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Imagine tilting your head back and watching the horizon blur as 810 drones rise and spread out, moving like a living storm front rolling across the sky. The shapes are small, but together they swallow depth perception. A curtain of engines buzzes loud enough to mask artillery fire. This was not a probing raid or a warning strike. It was the spear tip of an operation designed to wipe out Ukraine's electronic eyes, neutralize its conversations, and cripple its frontline positions before the actual warheads streaked through the atmosphere. Russia's logic was simple: saturation. A swarm of low-cost drones could overwhelm even the best radar screens, cutting defenders off from reliable data. While operators scrambled to track targets, Russia's ballistic missiles would ride in behind the noise and deliver the real kill shots. Cheap machines drew fire. Expensive warheads finished the work. The trick had roots in decades of military thought. In the Cold War, planners studied how waves of bombers timed with cruise missiles might overload air defense radars, forcing defenders to waste ammunition. The difference now was scale and speed. Instead of lumbering bombers, hundreds of small drones were tearing across the sky at once. Inside Ukrainian command centers, the calm rhythm of surveillance collapsed into shouting. Radar operators watched as their displays broke into hundreds of pulsing symbols. Alarms triggered continuously. Voices stepped on top of each other as officers tried to confirm which signals marked drones and which hinted at long-range missiles still outside detection range. Information turned into noise, and noise turned into panic. Seconds mattered, yet the very system meant to buy time seemed to dissolve. The defenders faced an impossible math problem: fire too many interceptors now, and when the warheads arrived, empty launchers would be staring at incoming death. Hold-back stockpiles and unarmed drones might crash into power stations, bridges, or frontline radars that made interception possible at all. It was like forcing a boxer to guess mid-swing whether a jab was real or just a feint, knowing that a missed decision meant eating a knockout hook. Ukraine's air defense relied on layers, each responsible for a different slice of the sky. Patriot batteries tracked high-end threats, ballistic missiles and jets. Systems like the Iris-T were meant to target drones and cruise missiles skimming low across terrain. Short-range guns filled in the gaps when faster interceptors missed. On paper, the arrangement looked strong, but paper models didn't capture the speed of 800 targets arriving at once. Each air defense crew chief was forced to calculate in real time. Was this particular drone worth an interceptor that might save a city later that night? Reports from the front line reflected the stress. Missile crews rationed shots like men counting the last liters of water under desert sun. Operators hesitated before pulling triggers, cutting timing margins to the edge of failure. Dozens of drones slipped through gaps, striking radars and scattering explosions near command vehicles. Ukrainian officers feared collapse was seconds away, with ammunition stocks dipping into red zones. But the defenses did not break outright. Flak bursts and well-placed interceptors thinned the swarm enough for the structure to stay standing. Losses were real and ugly. Operators in smoking bunkers, damaged arrays, supply convoys caught in flame. But when the dust thinned, the line was still there. The curtain had not fallen. That moment revealed something critical. The giant storm cloud was not the end of Russia's plan. It was only the staging ground for what Moscow believed would be a decisive second blow. Could Ukraine resist a strategy that relied not on single strikes but on endless volume? Could they survive without bleeding energy reserves dry? The next move was not about who had more missiles in the field. It was about who could bend the fight out of shape entirely through disruption. Picture 320 Ukrainian drones rising almost at once, each carrying either cameras sharp enough to map a battlefield in real time or equipment that could choke Russian radar and blind missile crews. They moved in waves, some circling high above while others skimmed low, darting between tree lines. It looked like a coordinated swarm that could peel the eyes off Russia's most advanced air defenses. Yet within minutes of liftoff, one of the most important drones in the plan, known by its call sign Vulture 7, suddenly fell silent. No feed, no jamming signal, nothing but a growing gap in the line of electronic interference. This was Ukraine's Phase 2, using reconnaissance drones to find command posts and electronic warfare platforms to keep Russian radars and missile batteries in the dark. The system relied on each drone playing its part, and the jammers were the shield that allowed the attackers to press forward. Without that electronic cover, Russian S-400 systems could switch back on, sweeping the skies and locking target tracks within seconds. The loss of Vulture 7 didn't just shrink the shield, it split it open. That hollow became a direct path that could expose dozens of Ukrainian drones, unraveling hours of planning and handing the initiative back to Russian defenses. In the middle of the chaos sat Sergeant Alexei, monitoring the frequency bands. He spotted the spike right away, a sudden burst of Russian radar noise pushing through where silence should have held. His console showed the break, and he realized instantly what it meant. Once those radars locked, Russian missile crews could paint targets and begin cutting down Ukraine's carefully built swarm. Alexei understood that he had seconds, not minutes, to respond. The automated systems were too slow to adapt. Redirecting a large jamming array normally relied on preset cycles and computer calculations. Overriding it by hand was considered risky, almost reckless, because each adjustment had to be balanced to avoid frying the equipment itself. Doing this under combat pressure meant leaning over panels, dialing frequencies manually, and guessing just enough power levels to counter the radar without losing the array entirely. No manual called for it, and few had even attempted it in real battle conditions. Still, Alexei reached for the switch. Every second the gap stayed open meant more clarity for Russian gunners. What had been a sky full of ghosts would turn back into sharp, trackable targets they could guide missiles toward. The Ukrainian swarm, so carefully constructed, could collapse into pieces of burning metal before it even reached the forward command posts. Alexei braced himself, ran the formula by instinct, and fired the manual override. In an instant, the array's output swung across the band, a brute redirection of power. Russian S-400 operators thought they had their targets locked, but signals slipped away. Their screens went back to haze, their missile guidance broke off mid-course. That small window closed, buying back the cover the swarm needed. The turnaround took 3 seconds, but in those 3 seconds, the pressure of battle changed direction. With Russia's networks blinded again, Ukrainian drones swept in. They had clear paths to strike. Recon units identified the command posts, and attack drones followed, slamming into coordination hubs and silencing the radios that carried orders forward. Russian armor in the field found itself cut off, drivers waiting for instructions that would never arrive. On the ground, Leopard 2 tanks rolled into motion, using precision fire against Russian vehicles that had no guiding voice. Ukrainian crews advanced while Russian machines sat uncertain, engines running but unable to maneuver as a unit. What had been designed as an unstoppable offensive began to stumble, not from lack of weapons, but from the sudden absence of control. The outcome wasn't shaped by who had more missiles or tanks, but by the instant Russia's coordination collapsed. One electronic disruption silenced their command chain, leaving forces cut off and unable to maneuver. That moment showed how fragile mass becomes when it loses direction. Future wars may not be decided by the stockpile of weapons, but by who adapts faster, blending human decisions with machines in real time. Numbers matter, but connectivity and nerve decide survival. The message was clear. On August 10th, 2025, the battle turned in 3 seconds, and those 3 seconds defined the front.